What if your body is sending out an SOS right now, and you are just calling it getting older? You wake up tired, your shoulders ache. You feel a slight pressure in your chest when you walk up the driveway, but you brush it off. You think, I am just out of shape, it is just the stress of the week. I know exactly what you are telling yourself right now, because I have seen it happen time and time again. We are taught that a heart attack is a sudden, violent event, a lightning strike out of nowhere. But for those of us over 50, the heart rarely shouts, it whispers. It whispers for weeks, sometimes a full 30 days before the storm actually hits. In the next few minutes, I will reveal the 7 warning signs your heart sends up to a month before an attack, including one you probably felt waking up today. But before we uncover this very first sign, you need to understand why our bodies hide this danger from us in plain sight. Let's talk about that first whisper. It usually starts with a profound, inexplicable fatigue. I am not talking about the normal tiredness you feel after a long day of working in the yard or the exhaustion of chasing your grandchildren around the house. We all know that kind of tired. It is a good tired. It means you lived that day fully. No, the fatigue I am talking about feels different. It is a heavy, sinking exhaustion that greets you the moment you open your eyes in the morning. It is the sudden inability to do simple things like making the bed or walking to the mailbox without feeling like you just ran a marathon. Your arms and legs feel like they are made of lead. Many of us, over 50, just accept this. We look in the mirror and tell ourselves it is just part of getting older. We were taught not to complain and just keep going. But ignoring this exhaustion isn't a sign of strength. It is a risk you do not need to take. You need to understand what is actually happening beneath the surface. I'm going to explain the mechanics of your heart right now, but first, a quick and vital reminder. This video is strictly educational and does not replace your doctor. If you are feeling something concerning right now, seek medical help. Now, why does your body create this intense fatigue weeks before a heart attack? Think of your heart as the master engine of a very complex machine. Its only job is to pump oxygen-rich blood to every single cell in your body. But as we age, the pipes that feed this engine, your coronary arteries, can start to narrow. Think of your arteries like old plumbing pipes in a house that slowly start to accumulate dirt and rust over the decades, making the path for the water narrower and narrower. Years of stress, the foods we ate in our 30s and 40s, the sleepless nights worrying about our families, all of it leaves deposits of cholesterol and calcium on the walls of those pipes. When those arteries narrow, the heart has to work twice as hard just to push the same amount of blood. And when the heart struggles, your body makes a survival choice. It is a brilliant but dangerous mechanism. Your body realizes there is a limited supply of oxygenated blood, so it prioritizes the most vital organ, your brain. It literally steals blood flow away from your muscles to keep your mind sharp and alive. That is why your legs feel heavy. That is why you cannot lift your arms. Your muscles are suffocating quietly because your heart is failing to deliver their fuel. And this struggle leads directly to the second silent sign, sudden dizziness and cold, clammy sweats. Have you ever stood up and felt the room spin for a second? We usually blame it on standing up too fast or not drinking enough water. But when your heart is struggling to pump blood, your brain occasionally experiences a brief drop in oxygen. That causes the dizziness. The cold sweat, however, is something far more primal. When your heart is in distress, your nervous system senses the danger. It knows you are in trouble long before your conscious mind does. So it hits the panic button. It floods your system with adrenaline, preparing you for a fight-or-flight situation. This massive adrenaline dump causes your blood vessels to constrict and forces a cold, sticky sweat out of your pores. It is not the sweat of a hot summer day. It is the cold sweat of a body that knows it is fighting for its life. We ignore these moments. We sit down, drink a glass of water, wipe our forehead and go back to our day. We tell ourselves the moment has passed. But the danger has not passed. The plaque inside your artery is still there, and it is becoming unstable. You see, a heart attack rarely happens just because an artery slowly clogs to 100%. It happens because that plaque, under the pressure of stress and high blood pressure, suddenly ruptures. It breaks open like a wound inside the artery. Your body tries to heal it by sending platelets to form a clot, and that clot is what completely blocks the blood flow. That is the moment the whisper becomes a scream. But before that rupture happens, this circulatory struggle starts a chain reaction that hits the organ sitting right next to your heart. And this creates the third silent sign, a symptom so easily confused with allergies, asthma, or just being out of shape, that thousands of Americans go to the pharmacy for cough medicine instead of going to the emergency room. You need to know exactly what this third sign feels like, because it is the one that tricks us the most. That third sign, the one that sends thousands of people to the pharmacy instead of the emergency room, is a sudden unexplained shortness of breath. I'm not talking about losing your breath after a heavy workout. I'm talking about walking up a flight of stairs you have climbed 1,000 times in your own home, and suddenly having to stop at the top, gripping the railing, trying to pull air into your lungs. You might think, my allergies are acting up, or I really need to get back on the treadmill. But here is what is actually happening. Your heart and your lungs are lifelong partners. They share a very tight space inside your chest, and they rely entirely on each other. When your heart muscle is struggling to pump because of a narrowed artery, the blood does not move forward as efficiently as it should. So, where does it go? It backs up. It backs up directly into the lungs. This microscopic fluid buildup makes your lungs heavy and stiff. You are gasping for air not because your lungs are failing, but because your heart is quietly drowning them. And because we are so used to pushing through discomfort, we sit down, catch our breath and ignore it. Then comes the fourth whisper, and this is perhaps the most deceptive of them all. Nausea, indigestion, and stomach discomfort. How many times have you woken up at 2 in the morning with a burning sensation in your stomach, walked to the bathroom cabinet, and chewed on an antacid? We blame the spicy food we ate for dinner. We blame the stress of the day. But the base of your heart sits right on top of your diaphragm, right next to your stomach. When the lower part of your heart is starving for oxygen, it irritates the diaphragm. Your body interprets this cardiac distress as severe indigestion or nausea. I have seen this happen far too often, especially with women and people managing diabetes. For them, the classic chest pain sometimes never comes. The neuropathy, the nerve damage that can happen over years of managing blood sugar, can actually mask the pain of a heart attack. Their only warning signs might be a cold sweat and a terrible feeling of nausea. They think they caught a stomach bug. They stay in bed, hoping to sleep it off, while their heart muscle is actively dying. This brings us to the fifth sign, a strange numbness, heaviness, or aching in places that seem completely unrelated to your chest. You might feel a sudden dull ache in your left arm. Sometimes it is not even pain. It just feels like your arm weighs 100 pounds. Or maybe you feel a strange tingling in your fingers. I have even seen people whose only symptom was a severe ache in their jaw or a sharp pain between their shoulder blades. Why does a failing heart make your jaw or your back hurt? It is a cruel trick of human anatomy. Your heart does not have its own dedicated set of pain nerves that go straight to the brain with a clear label that says heart. Instead, the nerves from your heart share the exact same neural highway as the nerves from your left arm, your jaw, and your upper back. When your heart is screaming for oxygen, it sends a massive distress signal up that highway. But by the time the signal reaches your brain, the brain gets confused. It reads the signal and thinks, my left arm is hurting, or I must have slept wrong on my neck. We are a generation that carries the weight of the world on our shoulders. We worry about our kids, our retirement, the rising cost of living. So when our shoulders ache or our back hurts, we just assume it is the burden of life. We take a painkiller and keep moving, but your body is trying to tell you something profound. It is mapping out a crisis. These physical signs, the heavy lungs, the upset stomach, the aching jaw, are all mechanical failures. But what happens when the warning isn't physical at all? What happens when your mind knows you are in danger before your body feels a single ounce of pain? The sixth sign is something most doctors will not even ask you about, but it is the most terrifying whisper of all, and it usually hits you when you are completely alone. That sixth sign, the one that usually hits you in the dead of night, when the house is quiet and you are completely alone, is a sudden, overwhelming sense of impending doom. I am not talking about the everyday anxiety we all carry. I am not talking about worrying if you have enough saved for retirement or stressing over a medical test result. We are used to that kind of worry. We have lived with it for decades. This is different. This is a primal physical dread that washes over you without any logical reason. You might be sitting in your favorite chair watching television, and suddenly your heart starts racing, your palms sweat, and your brain screams that something is terribly, terribly wrong. Many people confuse this with a panic attack. They try to take deep breaths. They tell themselves they are just stressed. But you have to understand the profound intelligence of your body. When a coronary artery is severely narrowed and the heart muscle is on the verge of starvation, your nervous system does not wait for the physical pain to start. It sounds the ultimate alarm. It floods your bloodstream with stress hormones, trying to wake you up, trying to force you to seek help. It is your body's final, desperate whisper before the storm breaks. And it is a quiet tragedy how many people ignore this feeling simply because they do not want to be a burden, or they feel embarrassed to call an ambulance for what they think is just nerves. And that brings us to the seventh sign, the most famous one yet the most misunderstood: chest pressure. Notice I did not say chest pain. Hollywood has done us a terrible disservice. We have been conditioned by movies to believe that a heart attack always looks like someone clutching their chest in sudden, agonizing pain and falling to the floor. Because of this image, when people over 50 feel something different, they dismiss it. The reality is far more subtle and far more dangerous. Most people who survive a heart attack do not describe a sharp, stabbing pain. They describe a heavy, relentless pressure. They say it feels like an invisible elephant just sat down on the center of their chest. It is a squeezing, a fullness, an uncomfortable tightness that lasts for more than 5 minutes. It might go away when you rest and come back when you walk. This is called angina. It is the literal sensation of your heart muscle crying out for oxygen. But here is where the story takes a critical turn, and I need every woman watching this to listen very closely. For decades, medical science focused almost entirely on how men experience heart attacks. But the truth is, the female heart speaks a slightly different language, and because we haven't been listening, cardiovascular disease has become the #1 cause of death for women. A woman's arteries are generally smaller, and the plaque buildup can happen differently. Because of this, nearly 30% of women who have a heart attack never experience that classic elephant on the chest. Instead, their symptoms are softer, more diffuse. They might feel that profound fatigue we talked about earlier. They might feel a burning sensation in their upper back, right between the shoulder blades. They might feel dizzy and nauseous. And there is another layer to this, a layer that goes beyond biology and touches on how we live our lives. Women in their 50s and 60s carry a unique, often invisible burden. You are the caretakers. You spent your 30s and 40s raising children, managing households, building careers. And now, just when you thought you might have a moment to breathe, you are often taking care of aging parents while still supporting your grown children. This chronic, unrelenting mental stress is not just an emotional burden, it is a physical toxin. Studies have shown that the rate of stress-related heart attacks is significantly higher in women. Your body absorbs that stress. It turns into inflammation, and that inflammation is the fire that weakens the plaque inside your arteries, making it ready to rupture. We are a generation that prides itself on endurance. We push through the pain. We take care of everyone else before we take care of ourselves. But endurance is not a virtue when your engine is failing. So, what do we do? If your body has been whispering to you, if you have felt the heavy legs, the sudden sweats, the unexplained breathlessness, or that strange ache in your jaw, what is the next step? You cannot undo 50 years of living in a single day. You cannot magically clean the rust out of the pipes overnight, but you can stop the damage right now, today. You can change the environment inside your body so that the plaque stabilizes, the inflammation cools down, and your heart can finally breathe. There is a specific protocol, a way to protect yourself that goes far beyond just taking a pill. But before I show you exactly how to build that shield around your heart, You need to understand the one massive mistake most people make when they try to get healthy after 50. The biggest mistake we make when we hit our 50s and 60s is believing that a single pill is going to fix decades of wear and tear. We go to the doctor, they look at our blood work, they see high cholesterol, and they write a prescription. We take the medication and we think, okay, I am protected, the problem is solved. But that is like putting a bucket under a leaking roof and thinking you fixed the hole. Medication is often necessary, absolutely, but it does not stop the underlying fire that is melting the pipes. That fire is chronic inflammation, and it is fueled by the stress we carry, the lack of sleep we endure, and the processed foods we consume simply because we are too tired to cook at the end of the day. If you have stayed with me this far into the video, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel and join us every day. We are building a community here of people who refuse to just fade away, people who understand that getting older is a privilege, and who want to live their second act with strength, clarity, and dignity. Now, let's talk about how you actually put out that fire inside your arteries. You do not need to become a marathon runner, and you do not need to survive on a diet of raw vegetables. That kind of extreme change never lasts. What you need is a strategic defense. I call it the Heart Shield Protocol, and it starts with understanding what actually damages your arteries in the first place. It is not just the fat you eat, it is the sugar. Think of refined sugars and ultra-processed carbohydrates as microscopic shards of glass traveling through your bloodstream. As they move, they make tiny scratches on the inner walls of your coronary arteries. Your body, trying to heal those scratches, sends cholesterol to patch them up. Over time, those patches become the plaque that eventually ruptures. If you want to protect your heart, you have to stop scratching the pipes. You do this by leaning heavily into a Mediterranean style of eating. I am talking about real, whole foods. Olive oil, which acts as a natural anti-inflammatory. Fatty fish rich in omega-3s that literally cool down the heat inside your blood vessels. Nuts, seeds, and leafy greens. You peel more than you unwrap. It is a simple shift, but it changes the entire chemical environment of your body. The second part of the shield is movement, but not the kind that exhausts you. Your heart is a muscle, and like any muscle, it needs to be worked to stay efficient. But when you are over 50, the goal of exercise is not to burn calories, it is to create new pathways for your blood. When you walk briskly for just 30 minutes a day, enough to break a light sweat, but still be able to hold a conversation, your body does something miraculous. It actually begins to grow tiny new blood vessels around the narrowed arteries. It builds its own natural bypasses. But diet and walking are just the foundation. If you are over 50, especially if you have a family history of heart disease, there is one specific medical test you need to ask your doctor for, and it is not a standard cholesterol panel. It is called a coronary calcium scan. It is a very fast, non-invasive CT scan of your heart. What it does is look for calcified plaque inside your arteries. It literally shows you the rust inside the pipes years before it ever causes a blockage. A standard stress test might only show a problem when your artery is already 70% blocked. A calcium score can catch the danger when it is just beginning. It gives you the ultimate power, the power of time. And time is the most critical factor when we talk about the heart, because even if you do everything right, even if you build the shield, you still need to know exactly what to do if the storm actually hits. There is a very specific window of time when a heart attack begins, a window where your actions will dictate the rest of your life. Medical professionals call it the golden hour. And how you handle those first 60 minutes is the difference between walking out of the hospital a few days later or never walking out at all. That golden hour is the absolute razor's edge between life as you know it and a life permanently altered. If you ever feel that relentless pressure in your chest, combined with the cold sweat or the shortness of breath, you do not wait to see if it passes. You do not take an antacid. And you absolutely never, under any circumstances, drive yourself to the hospital. You call 911. I say this because of a very simple, mechanical truth. When you call an ambulance, the paramedics do not just give you a ride. They bring the emergency room to your living room. They can run an EKG on your couch. They can administer oxygen and medications that stabilize the plaque before you even reach the hospital doors. If you drive yourself, you are just a person sitting in traffic with a dying heart muscle. But the entire reason we are having this conversation today is so you never have to experience that golden hour. At the beginning of this video, I asked you, what if your body was sending out an SOS and you were just calling it getting older? We have translated those whispers now. The heavy legs in the morning, the sudden dizziness, the breathlessness on the stairs, the nausea that feels like a stomach bug, the aching jaw, the sudden dread in the middle of the night, and the invisible elephant on your chest. You know the code now. Getting older is not a process of slowly breaking down. It is a process of accumulating wisdom, and the highest form of wisdom is finally learning to listen to the house you live in. We spend our whole lives building things. We build careers, we build families, we build homes. We worry so much about what we are going to leave behind for our children. We want to leave them security. We want to leave them a paid-off mortgage or a little money in the bank. But the absolute greatest inheritance you can ever leave your family is your presence. It is being there to walk your daughter down the aisle. It is being there to hold your grandson. It is being there to sit on the porch with your spouse and actually enjoy the quiet you worked 50 years to earn. Your heart has been beating since before you took your first breath. It has carried you through grief, through joy, through exhaustion, and through triumph. It has never taken a day off. It is time to return the favor. I want you to think of 5 people right now. 5 people you care about, who are over 50, who work too hard and who never complain. Share this video with them. Send it in a message right now. You might be the reason they listened to a whisper they were about to ignore. And before you go, I want you to leave a sincere comment below. Tell me, which of these 7 signs have you been brushing off as just getting older? Let's have a real conversation down there. And while you are at it, tell me what you want us to talk about in the next video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel so we can keep walking this path together. Listen to the whispers. I will see you in the next video.